Jersey Paddler in Brick, New Jersey. We're going to be doing a seminar on techniques to catch fish in local waters. And this is free. This is Google, so it's not costing you anything. And this is what I do. I use the mapping sites to get an idea of the water that I'll be fishing. Once I have an idea of the size of the body of water, where potentially I'm going to try to get in with my kayak. You know, if it's windy out, I know that there's a good cove in here where I can be protected from, you know, the wind. And I'll use a site like this to just learn about the body of water. Then what I would do is I would try to go online, type in the name of the body of water you're going to fish, and see what people are saying about it. See what local guys are putting in, you know, forums, or if there's any magazine articles written, and look for tag words the time of the year you're going to be fishing. So if you're fishing in the fall, I'm going to read anything I can about this lake in the fall. Learn about what areas are productive, the baits the guys are throwing. And also, a great tool is YouTube. Type in the name of this lake, and I guarantee right now you could pull up about 25 videos of people fishing this. You'll learn areas that are working. I love to find a house. If a guy's catching a fish and he's catching them, you see like a yellow house in the background. He gave away his spot. That's a great place to fish. So if you go on YouTube, you can get definitely a lot of information on lures that are working, areas of, you know, the lake that are good, and it's so much information out there that's on the internet. So social media is definitely an asset. Kayak power fishing. This is something that I love to do. When I'm out on the water, I like to break it down. By power fishing, I'm going to use 3 baits to cover different depths of the water. So this is, I'll pass this around. These are the baits that I would target. You want to pass those around. These are baits that would work the top of the water column. From top water baits to weight baits. Anything that stays from that top of the water to about like 2-3 feet under it are baits that I would call my top water column baits. So that would be your top water. And those are baits right there. Weight baits are great, especially this time of the year. It's going to be very hard to get a fish to come up to bite a popper or a spook or a buzz bait. But the weight baits are pretty much like a crankbait. They have a little bit of a bill, and they go right under the water in that 2 to 3 foot range. And it kind of just looks like a fish cruising. And that's what really is working right now. When the water gets cooler, you need to take it down from the surface just a little bit. You can still catch fish using those surface baits. I'm going to talk more a little bit later about the mid-water and bottom baits. But what I like to do in power fishing is moving quickly and covering a body of water fast. I've gotten to lakes where by like 12:30 in the afternoon, I noticed I didn't fish where I wanted to fish yet. So by using this power fishing, it's used by the pros, Mike Iaconelli, Kevin Van Dam. What you're doing is you're going to try to access as much water as possible. You want to hit as much water as possible and keep your bait in the water as much as possible. So with power fishing, 25-30 casts using 3 different rods rigged with a lure that's going to target the top of the water, the middle of the water, and the bottom of the water. So I'll make 6 casts here, another 6 here with that different bait, and then a bait to target the bottom and move along. The more your lure is in the water and you're moving, the percentages of you catching a fish are going to increase. Guys just sitting in one spot because you already thought when you got there, oh, I'm going to catch them in the rock piles. You're just fishing the rock piles all day. You're hung up on a technique. And all I'm saying here is break out of that, have 3 different lures that do 3 totally different things, and target those 3 different columns. And move quickly. You are going to catch fish. And that's what you're trying for. You know, you're not out there. We're weekend anglers. If we had all the time in the world, we could sit on one spot and just keep fishing it out. But if those fish aren't there, You're going to find them by using 3 different baits and covering as much water as possible. Move along. Move along and you'll catch fish. And that's exactly this last line here. Cover water effectively and targeting active fish. If you have all the time in the world, you could definitely get a non-active fish to bite, and that's by flipping the lure in front of his face and flipping it again, and flipping it again. But when you have 4 to 5 hours to fish a body of water, I want to know when I left, I covered as much of it as possible, and I used every lure in the spectrum to try to work for me that day. So. Fish love oxygen. Not every lake has these. Aerators. I love them. If I see an aerator in a lake, I'm throwing jigs. I'm gonna target the bottom. I'm gonna throw jigs, swim baits. That's not working, I'll throw a spinner bait through there, cover the mid-water. Even top water would work great around this, depending on the season that you're fishing. Fish love oxygen, especially in the summer months when they get more lethargic and tired from just the heat. Oxygenated water, you'll find fish. So if there's any creeks, anything turning water up into the water, this is turning up nutrients that the fish are feeding off of, and also gives them their oxygen. Also around these areas, you'll find the weeds are nice and green. And people tell me when they go fishing, what's a thing that I look for in the weeds to know that there's fish there? And I look for the greenest weeds, because the greener the weeds, the more oxygen is inside that water. And it's the same thing as this aerator. It's the same thing as when you're fishing out in that thick slop grass. If it's green, you're going to catch fish in there. Now it's deciding on what baits to throw and how to punch the cover and how to fish it, but this is a big factor, the oxygen in the water you're fishing. So you see that aerator, I can guarantee there's a bass in there right now. Okay, top water. Top water baits, I just passed that little case around.
You want it back?
No, you just... Hands down, my favorite top water bait to throw, if you ever watch my YouTube channel, the Pop-R. This bait has been around since the 60s. Bill Dance promotes it and talks about it. It's from Rebel. Fantastic bait. And all this does is float on top of the water, and it acts as an injured bait fish. So it's going to sit right on the top of the water column, and as it gets chugged, it's going to make a bloop, bloop, bloop sound. Different cadences to bring this back. Twitch it 2 times, let it stop. Twitch it 3 times, let it stop. Then you change it, twitch it once. And you'll see that when this bait stops, you might see a swirl behind it. Sometimes you'll actually hear the hooks rattle because there's a fish under it just tapping it with their nose. This bait works solid from late spring all the way into early fall. You can catch fish right on this $2.99 bait, a Rebel Pop-R. Sometimes you'll notice that they want a bigger offering. So when they want that bigger offering, I would use this. It's another variation of the Pop-R, and it's a shad, and it's just going to dart. So it has more action of a spook, which a spook would just be this torpedo-looking bait, and it just right on top of the water. And you walk it, you can chug it. These baits work great around the aerator photo. They work great in open water. Another thing